Of the turning, I did not take into account the fact that I've been having to use the cane for real. No, don't do that. My hand is compromised apparently, and unfortunately, of course, it's my right hand. Of course it is. Yes, yes, you don't want me to try writing left-handed though. We would be here all night. Okay, so while I take a few minutes to ice my hand and everything, you guys can ask me a few more questions. Unless you're sitting there going, nope, you have all your questions answered. You're just going to do the whole deer in headlights thing, eh? Oh, okay. Yours isn't working, is it? Turn the little switch on.
Oh, I can yell that. I'm sure you'll be able to hear me.
There you go.
I found the right switch.
And I'm looking at children, so I can't say what I'm thinking. Alright.
So, I just finished Blood and Lore, and I was curious as
no spoilers. Okay, just warning you, I wouldn't be responsible for your safety. Okay, you finished Blood and Lore.
I was just curious as to the role that Jason is going to continue to portray in his life.
That would go under the heading of spoiler if people have to know Blood and Lore. I'm sorry, because I can't think of any way to answer that without giving stuff away that some people are still going, what do you mean? They didn't finish it, sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of books you start out with a fantasy image and often they didn't end up in the final product. I'm always interested in what ends up on the kind of movie course. Do you have a favorite one that you'd like to share that didn't make it?
Well, nice to hear my first novel. The first image that came to me was the destruction of the school with the main characters having the school literally fall apart around them. That's not in the book. It was the first image that ever came to me, and by the time I finished the book, 400 pages later, it was nowhere. And there was nowhere to put it. And that was my first experience with the idea that the seed idea in our image is often not necessary for the story.
How often do you meet with your writing group?
Well, actually, hang on. Sorry, I'm answering more questions up here about the whole ice thing. Writer group, we try to meet once a month. And we try every once a month, and we have for almost 20 years, actually, which is really cool. So, all right, other questions? We have a hand over here, but I don't know where the microphone is.
So I've had experiences where I've been reading different books in the series and come to a very climactic moment and had to stop reading and put the book down to do life things. And I felt very guilty about leaving the characters in the situation they were in and walking away from them. Like I felt like, do the characters just take five? Do you ever feel like that when you're writing and maybe have to stop, or do you just plow through? I just was like, you can't leave Anita here in this situation.
Children have amazing timing. Our daughter has had amazing timing the time she could walk and talk. She always knows to knock on the door when I am doing a sex scene. And I won't just be starting it. I will be well into the scene and well into the mood, and suddenly there would be that clamoring at the door, that mommy, 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 and it's like, no, not now. Of course, all of us with small children know that there is a real life equivalent of this moment. And at least with the writing, I can draw myself out of the book, go to the door and say, yes, dear, whatever do you want? And in the real life scenario, you just answer through the door and go, Mommy's busy. and of course, it's always an emergency at that moment for the child. So, yeah, that's always difficult. Leaving people in fight scenes or violent scenes, I don't leave those. I have to finish them. I'm compulsive about that because the flow is there. And my daughter never was attracted to those scenes. strangely enough, having some kind of slaughter going on, never seemed to bring her to my door. Do you know they've done a study that newborns actually give off, that mothers of newborns actually give off some kind of pheromone when they're aroused, the newborn picks up on? It really is true. It's not an insidious plot. It is actually happening. The newborn is maneuvering, so you will not make a rival too soon. Children are evil. Yes, they are. But they're designed to be that way. Just as they get older, they're convinced that we are too. Okay, other questions, and then we'll start.
One of the things I really like is how much you investigate your equipment. And I was wondering, the guns, I know how you will go to the range and shoot the guns and get familiar with the equipment, with the guns that you're using. When did you start doing that? Did you start doing that from the beginning? Did you just like the look of the Browning high power? Did you know she's going to have a fire starter, she's going to have a Browning? How did you know?
Well, one of the reasons I needed is my size, and so I wouldn't have to borrow somebody else's hand every time I needed a bit of weapon or try a piece of equipment. And from the very beginning, I knew almost nothing about guns. I'd only shot 2 handguns in my entire life. So I went out and looked at guns, and at that time, I mean, the book came out in 94. And, okay. Sorry, I'm being distracted. Not in 94, but I wrote the book 2 years before that, finished the book 2 years before that. It took me a year to write it. So we're talking late 80s. And there were no small compacts for a woman's hand, hardly at all, back in the mid-80s. There was almost nothing that fit my hand. The Browning was one of the few things I could shoot well. And the Firestar was one of the small compacts that actually could be concealed on somebody my size. And then there was this explosion of small guns that fit my hand, but I had not gone back out and gun shopped. So when I went back out and gun shopped, the choices were all, it was amazing how many choices there were. No, I don't know affection for the Brownings. I'm sorry. I tried to get rid of the Browning high power, and I ended up with the Browning medium, so I just like the Brownings, except for dismantling them for cleaning. And I'm sorry, the Brownings are not my favorite thing when they're in 1,000 pieces in front of me. I hate puzzles, by the way. And my husband has his FN57, which breaks down to about 4 parts. So he has his dismantled and put back together by the time I dismantled the Browning. I still have a scene I haven't been able to use where Edward gets to have the 5.7 and
5 parts
put back together while she's just taking the Browning apart. And then he says, "Want to see me do it again?" It's 5 parts. Oh, I'm sorry. My heart bleeds for you. Maybe you disassemble the magazine. Well, you shouldn't have to disassemble the magazine to clean it if you're taking care of it. I'm just saying. All right, fine. 8 parts. The Browning breaks into about 20 to 30.
Yeah. Field serving.
I'm not talking about field serving. I'm talking about taking it down to the whole thing. I mean, I'm sorry. That is about.
20, 30.
I'm sorry. I think it's close to 20 parts if you dismantle it all. Yeah. It looks like some guns exploded on the table, and then you have to put it back together. And all I can think of is, if this was a real life scenario, bad guy would come through now, and I would just have to take the biggest part of the Browning and throw it, because I would never get it back together in time. So I started from the very beginning to try to be as realistic as I could and go out and learn about guns and things. So I've always been a big stickler for research. Just can't help myself, I guess. All right, I think I can actually go back to signing because I can no longer feel my wrist. It's good.